What's going on, guys? So here's the deal. I was cleaning up my office a little bit and was finding a lot of stuff that I didn't even know that I still had. Like, for example, while I was cleaning, I found the Crow Special Edition, to which I thought I lost this thing like a long time ago, but it's still here. It's still in my possession. So I was happy and giddy about it. But then I also found an old Batman graphic novel, which is called Second Chances. This is where he meets Jason Todd and how Jason Todd became Robin. But the most interesting thing about this book to me is probably the first story that was featured in it, that being Batman number 402. And I gotta say, from a psychological mindset, it shows just how terrifying some of Batman's villains are. But the funny thing is, the villain in this story isn't even the Joker, the Penguin, or any villain that we're familiar with Batman's mythos. It was just a regular guy that was dealt a bad hand. So the story starts off with two couples heading to their car after their day, and they're being stopped by two very dangerous individuals. When they threaten the boyfriend for his money, he was willingly trying to give it up, but in exchange, they don't hurt him or his girl. And as you can see, it didn't go so well. And before this prick was about to do something heinous, he hears a crunch in the distance. And here we see Batman standing over the other perp with that menacing look in his eye. And when the other perp asks Batman what he did to his partner, Batman says nothing much and proceeded to snap his neck. After that happened, Batman makes his way to his secret hideout, to where he pretty much reminisces about the night, saying how he took an oath to protect and only kill when self-defense calls for it, saying how he was tired of following the rules and he decided to take it one step further, that he was the Batman and he had a job to do. Only, as you can see, it's not Batman, or at least the person who we know as Batman. But anyway, the next night, the bat signal signs into the sky and Batman makes his way towards it, only to find himself pretty much outgunned and outmanned by the entire police force. Batman makes a break for it and makes good on his escape, and at first he thought that Commissioner Gordon has betrayed him. But as he recalls, he didn't see Commissioner Gordon on that rooftop, so something is going on. And when he makes his way to the Commissioner's home, he found out that he was wanted for murder. Commissioner Gordon tells Batman that the person who was literally behind that ambush was basically Deputy Commissioner Barnes. But interestingly enough, the two muggers actually had something in common. They were both arrested for murder, but then got off a year before for legal technicalities. It's clear that someone is committing murder and using Batman's likeness to do the deed. And so the Dark Knight goes to investigate. At Wayne Manor, Bruce Wayne, along with his ward Jason Todd, were discussing the murders until Bruce winds up getting an idea. He tells Alfred to call every theatrical costume agency in the city to see if they have a Batman costume for rent. Meanwhile, Bruce and Jason were following up on leads and they managed to find the name of the guy whose wife was murdered by those same muggers that were killed the other night. But in this panel, Jason said, "Is that so bad that those two are dead?" But Batman has made it clear to Jason that he is not a murderer and he would never cross that line. But when Jason said, "You killed before," he said yes, but only in self-defense. And then Bruce tells Jason straight up, "Listen, son, if we're no better than the lice who snuff out human life like it's worth nothing at all, then well, it's time that I hung up my cowl." And when Jason said that he was still glad that those guys are dead, Bruce says, "I'm glad too, I'm just not proud of it." At that moment, Alfred comes in and reports that he has called 7 companies that have a Batman suit for rent, but they are unavailable because they winded up being stolen. So Bruce continues his investigation. He winds up going to the husband of the woman that was murdered. And while telling this man that he's representing a program that is called the Victim's Aid, he wants to get an interview with the guy. The man in question, Howard Despin, has recalled that after his wife was murdered, he didn't really care much about life anymore. And it seemed like nobody else cared about his wife's murder except for one lone detective who was busting his ass every day in order to see that she gets justice, until they got to walk on a technicality. Meanwhile, another murder has taken place, and this time the victim is a mugger who tried to rob a store. And according to the store owner, it's the same MO. Batman breaks in, he stops the mugger, snaps his neck, but for good measure, Batman tosses him through the window. And around that time when the police are investigating, a reporter by the name of Mr. Davis decides that he wants to ask Commissioner Gordon a couple of questions. He recounts the events as I just explained, but then he notices one interesting thing about the perp. He was an armed robber charged with a fatal shooting of a convenience store owner just last year. But just like the other two, he walked on a technicality. And it was at that moment where Commissioner Gordon recalled the name of that detective that was working that case, one Tommy Karma. And according to the reporter, it turns out that Karma was the youngest detective to ever get promoted from a uniform when he single-handedly rescued a woman from a street gang, which Commissioner Gordon also recalls that he got way too eager when he got the job. He wrote too many rules, he got too violent, and that's the whole reason why these guys walked in the first place, and that was police brutality charges. And obviously the interviewer was basically Batman in disguise. But now we have a link to the killings, and that link is Tommy Karma. To which Batman recalls that Karma is not only being a dangerous man, but he's also a sick man as well. with Batman saying that the guy has a good reason for hating criminals. According to Batman, one of the criminals that Tommy collared was basically a mob hitman in the act. Not only did Tommy had him dead to rights, but that also means that he was an eyewitness to the crime, which is why in an attempt to shut him up permanently, the mob decided to rig his car with explosive. Except that wasn't him in the car. That was his wife and his 6-year-old daughter. And now we understand the reason why he's doing this and why he's impersonating Batman. What happened to his wife and daughter caused him to snap, and now he's going after criminals that literally got off on a technicality, criminals that he helped put away. So Batman tries to hunt the guy down and goes to his job as a night watchman, to which he changed his hours of the day. So the only lead that he had to go on was to go to the guy's house. When Batman makes his way to the residence, he's then greeted by Karma's mother, who greeted Batman as her own son. She then tells Batman, still thinking that it's her son, that what he's doing is wrong. But then the more she talks, she goes a little bit deeper. It's hard on your old mother. Son, face reality. You're not the Batman. You're Tommy. My Tommy. I know you admire him, worshipped him as a teenager, wanted to be like him. You even named your little girl Robin. But you're not him. You're not the Batman. This only gets worse when Batman finds Tommy's secret lair, to which this lair is kind of like a discount Batcave, at which Batman says, judging by what his mother said, Karma isn't just impersonating me, he thinks he is me, which Batman hopes that by confronting him, he'll come back to reality. And luckily, he knows his next target. Batman makes his way to Commissioner Gordon's office and tells him who the next target is going to be. And it was a mob assassin by the name of the Snuffer. He's due to testify in the grand jury the next day, at which if he rats out his buddies, he winds up getting immunity, a new face, and a new life. And if that was the case, Karma was not going to let that happen. So of course, Batman breaks into the holding cell, takes down all the guards until he gets his hands on the Snuffer, at which he drops him from a building that led to the real Batman to save him. And when he asked Batman what was the point of dropping him if he was going to save him in the end, Batman's literal response was, shut up, I didn't drop you, but I almost wish I had. Saving your life was the most disgusting thing I've done in a long time. Honestly though, can you blame him? This leads to Karma getting the drop on Batman and literally berating him for letting him live. But when he looks at Batman, he asks, why are you dressed like me? But when Batman tells him that he got it backwards, he then flips out. This shows you how really broken and dangerous this man is, and he still believes that he's Batman. And even with all that, Batman still doesn't want to fight him, until Robin shows up out of nowhere and winds up distracting him. This causes Tommy to remember the old life that he had with his wife and his daughter, the one that he named Robin. And in that moment, Batman sucker punches him and knocks him out. And although Batman has explicitly told Robin to stay put, he's still glad that he showed up when he did. And with the sirens in the distance, they decided to stick around just so Batman can clear his name. Robin then says, he broke some ribs, huh? Why didn't you just hit that guy sooner? To which Batman replied, Robin, somehow it was hard for me to swing at him. After all, who am I but just another guy who thinks he's Batman? But don't worry, this isn't the last time we see Karma, as he makes another appearance in the next issue. But I gotta say, this is probably one of the most interesting Batman stories I've ever read. And I do love this cover of Batman fighting himself, because when you really think about it, Batman and Tommy Karma are not so different. They both lost their family to the criminal element. They both did what they did in the name of justice. The difference is one tries to do it by the books while the other crosses the line and commits murder. It's stories like this that makes me wonder, what would Batman be like if he actually threw away his no-killing code? Which, don't get me wrong, we've seen this happen one too many times in what-if stories, especially in stories involving the Joker. But it's stories like this that make you think that if Batman's life took the same turn as Tommy Karma's life, would he still be considered a hero? I don't know, I'm just talking. But what do you guys think about this story? Do you think it's good? And what's your favorite Batman story? Whatever you think, leave it down in the comments below. I still got some reading to do, but I'll catch you guys in the next one.